Happy Friday. We're almost done. So now it's time to get serious and do some game dev. We did some fun stuff yesterday. The tile editor tool is looking good. Looking good. There's one or two features we don't have from the old version that I think maybe we're going to skip a couple of them for now. So I think we're starting to break new ground on it, which is really exciting. Really exciting for someone who's been just recreating and refactoring and stuff for months. So we can see the current state of our tile editor like this. This is kind of where we left off yesterday. We've added kind of an interesting multi-level. Let me make this room not a solid block. Got this multi-level cutaway thing that's kind of terraced. That's kind of what we did yesterday. So you can kind of see the direction of the terracing. It's a little awkward that I have to like fill out a whole solid block and then carve out the space I want within it. But I don't think that's actually that bad. It looks a little weird before I've done it, but yeah, so we can see multi-level and it's kind of terracing away from us, which Ryson had the idea that maybe that's not what we want. What we actually want is it to terrace. We want to invert it so that, because right now the area that's least exposed is like the actual level that we're mousing over, like the level we're working on. And it kind of peels away backwards, or peels away, not backwards, but it like peels away from us. And maybe we want it the other way, like we're cutting a hole into the 3D space so that we can view it. So we're going to try to do that. We're going to try to reverse this slope, basically. We want to do it in a way where you can tell that that's what's happening. So we need to be a little careful. Like I want to make sure I'm leaving a gap. So we probably just want kind of the reverse of this. Like we probably still want it to go up and over by one, just in the other direction. So how are we going to do that, though, is the real question. Because, well, okay, I think I understand how we're going to do it. I think I have an idea. It kind of depends on how aggressive we want to do the bottom level, the bottom floor. But let's start trying stuff. Get writer open here. So invert the funnel. This is our idea. So this is our little, do the cutaway pass. We could honestly just make these function calls now that we've like unrolled them, instead of just laying them out linearly like this. Just so we could evaluate what we're doing a little more clearly in order, but this is fine. So we're going to invert. So if the key is the key is basically the chords of the hull piece that we're looking at. So this should become a tile because it's in the hulls list. So it's a block for which we've calculated, or it's a tile for which we've calculated a hull type, like inner hull, outer hull, middle hull. And so this is probably going to be a tile unless we call it here. We call it cutaway. because that's kind of how you see it when you see it in like a diagram book of like a ship or something or a building. You see like these cutaways where they chop through to reveal sections of it. We're kind of doing our version of that. So if the key is exactly the same as, so this is our active layer. Key equals, key evaluates to chord Z, key Z, chord Z. This is the layer that we're actively operating on, so we'd call this the active layer. So the terracing happens here. So I wonder how to reverse this, because right now we're basically subtracting the difference. What if we just try adding the difference? This might look weird. So can I just make this multiple, like all at once across multiple floors? Yeah, I can. Kind of cool. Kind of cool that I can do this. This is cool because this actually doesn't interfere with our block placement as much, which is important. Okay, this is kind of cool. I see the terracing. Let's go one level down. Is this the same? Yeah, so let's go one additional layer here. Just so we can really see it. And let's put some walls up. So can I do this on multiple floors as well? So if I make walls here and then I go down a layer, can I do this? Can I go down another layer? Okay, so I can place walls multiple times, which is kind of neat. I'm kind of learning the tricks of the new version of the editor here. I do want to change the wall placement from a rect to a line. Maybe we'll do that today as well. So we'll put the walls in front, finish sealing off this space. We probably also need to do the flood fill algorithm. That's one of the big missing pieces of this. That's weird why it did that. I think I understand why. I think we need an exemption for the active area. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but I think we need to do that. Because I think it's awkward if you're cutting away. Like, yeah, here we're cutting away. So if I do it this way, if I go from back to front, it doesn't happen. But if I go from front to back, you basically are cutting away. Okay, this is almost right. It's not quite aggressive enough. But I do like that it terraces forward like this. Oops. Get rid of that. And it kind of gives a hint at the layer above it. It'll look better when it's not just great, like solid block texturing, I think. I think it'll look a lot more clear what we're looking at. Right now it's a little harder to tell what's going on. But I think Ryson was correct that this is more what we want. I wonder if we want to, instead of, because right now we're just aggressively calling everything in front of the cursor based on some offset. I wonder if we want to try to create more of an area around the cursor rather than just doing everything in front. But maybe we don't, because then someone could call away and like want to and look at everything. Excuse me. Oops. I had the wrong window in focus. My hotkeys apparently have OBS commands attached to them. My engine command, my game controls. I should probably change my OBS hotkeys to prevent something like that from happening. All right, so I kind of like this in one way, and I kind of dislike it in another way. I like it in that it maintains more of the ship's outer layer, so like you're less likely to just cut away whole chunks of the ship. It basically makes it so you can only really scrutinize the one layer that you're actually focused on still. I do prefer it to what we were doing previously, which was basically that as you mouse down, the entire level above it was erased. So you could only see basically the level that you were focused on. I don't like that. I don't like taking like whole slices, whole layers off. I like this kind of thing more. We need to tune it. It needs to be better on the layer that we're actually using. Like it needs to be pulled back further. The real question is, should it be like curved? Or should it be these straight lines? It should probably be straight lines, unless I can make it way more sophisticated. I'm going to try to set it up so that it's like maybe two tiles away from wherever our mouth selection is or something like that. Maybe we start with one. We just keep seeing what feels right. So here we have if key.x or key.y chords are less than. So we don't call these. If either of these are less than. If both of these are exactly equal to, we do. So we're only calling ones that are greater than. So we need kind of a more sophisticated check. We have an or here. We can maybe change this to an and. In which case we can just make this greater than. Let's see how this feels. And then these ones I kind of want to be more aggressive as well. I might actually just say +1 for now. Or maybe it's -1. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about what to do about the upper levels yet. But let's just make small refinements and evaluate them. I kind of wish I had already implemented the saving and loading system so I could just save this test layout and not have to basically remake it every time. But it's actually pretty easy to do. Now I just need to cut the holes out of it. It's actually really easy to batch commands. I just did this whole thing in 3 commands. Okay, so the first floor is behaving insanely. Yeah, because it's cutting away like that. It's cutting away any... So it still needs to be like both. Maybe the coordinate it samples from needs to be farther forward. And then we just add an exception for what you're actually placing down. Something like that. We want like a V shape that's going away from the... We want a V shape that's like receding back from the cursor like this. Or I guess maybe we want like a V shape like this. We could start doing maybe some like distance checking. Like we could be comparing the distance of the coordinate to some like camera, some like imaginary camera. Apologies. All right, so how do I want to formulate this? I actually kind of want like a sweep. I can imagine ways to do this, but the problem is I'm struggling to imagine ways to do this that don't affect the very block that we're trying to place down. Because I don't want to overwrite that. Like I don't want to affect the area that we're building in. But actually maybe what I was doing on the ground floor there was almost correct. Yeah, maybe we want to check the length. Maybe we eliminate coordinates that have a greater length than this coords. So let's try a different check. So let's try this check. Let's try if key dot x. Let's try this. Let's ask if key. Well, let's get the coords length here. Float coords. Well, int coords length squared. You can just say length squared. Equals coords dot length squared. Let's say if key dot length squared is greater than length squared, continue. Or not continue, it would be less than. If key dot length squared is less than length squared, continue. Let's try this. Let's try this filter for the bottom floor. A reasonably cheap thing to do. It's a little more complicated if we actually want the proper... Oh, no. We're calling the very... Somehow we're calling the very coordinate that we... Oh, we can't do the full key. It needs to be key.xyz. Because the key is a vector 4. That should work. Or that should at least eliminate the bug I just spotted. No, we're still doing it. So we're calling the exact coordinate that we're mousing over. That we don't want that. But why is that the case? Because this should match. This should exactly match. Oh, we need less than or equal. Needs to be less than or equal. This should give us kind of a fan shape, ideally, is what I'm imagining. Okay, so we eliminated that issue. So let's do this. Well, let's do this for... I'm gonna do this for the whole floor again. Let's just go to the limit. I don't know why I'm not just going to the limit on these tests. It's probably the best test of this if I just do that. I'm thinking about how to stabilize movement across levels, and I think I maybe want to take control of the cursor when that's happening. All right, so what's being called here? So it's anything... Let's go up to the top level so we can actually see what's happening. Or let's actually make a level up here. so I can see what's happening. Okay, so that is like a fan shape. That actually maybe is what I want. But it's really aggressive. I kind of want it fanning this way, not this way. How would we do that? I want it to fan out like this. But maybe that's what you'd actually want it to do. I don't know. So how do we get this to be basically the other direction, like down this way? So this is saying any longer than. Can we favor? Can we do something about like the dot product or something like that? Not maybe the dot product, but like, can we change the projection of this line? Because basically it's saying any coordinate that has a shorter length than this one, just leave it be. If it's longer, so if it's anywhere along here, call it. But we actually want to say something else. We want some kind of easing of that restriction. I'd rather have it go to here than go to here, basically. And so that means it needs to be more likely to eliminate coordinates as the components become more similar to each other. So what can we do? Can we like divide one component from the other? How can we take into account the discrepancy between the two coordinates? I guess we could take the larger coordinate. We could measure the discrepancy between the two coordinates, like whether the x is much longer than the y. And we could remove that from the length or add it or whatever. We could add or remove it to change this line. Maybe we try that. I'm kind of just reaching at straws here. So right now we're just doing a raw length check. So can we basically do something else? So we can do this initial check. No. So instead what we want to do is we want to measure the difference. So we want to say something like I want to say something like variable max. Say something like integer max equals key dot max axis. We'd say key. So we'd index into the key by its max axis. Maybe we'd do xy. Maybe we want to avoid the z. This is kind of convoluted, but I'm just trying to get something that generates the value that I want. And then we can figure out how to express it more elegantly. Oops, that wanted to exactly. There we go. So we can get the max and the min, and then we can measure the difference, I guess. Diff is max minus min. And then what do? We basically say minus the diff. Maybe? Let's see what this does for us. Okay, so it's sloping it, but it's going in the wrong direction. And in fact, it's being kind of weird about it. Um, oh, wait, was that? Oh, so it's interesting. So while you're up here, it's actually doing one thing, but the further back you go, oh, that might actually be kind of good. So it's like if you're just looking into it, it's only showing you a little bit, but if you go further back, it's pulling apart way more. Oh, that's maybe kind of genius. I'm not sure how to square that with the higher levels, but that's maybe what you want. Maybe is what we want. 'Cause this way, if we're just like if we're using the camera rotation to like zip around to the side of the ship we're most interested in, and then we just peek in a little bit, it's not like too aggressive. If we peek in a lot, it starts to pull the ship back like a ton. I don't want to see this at work with like more walls. I'm gonna like subdivide the area. I think this build limit, I think we're gonna move away from such a strict build limit. Like early on in my mind, I really didn't want, I wanted to have the whole playable space visible on screen at all times because that's like the into the breach thing to do. But I'm starting to move away from that idea. I'm thinking maybe it would be okay to not do that, especially if this becomes a turn-based game, which is the direction we're going. So I think this is kind of interesting. I maybe want to like make the curve even more dramatic. But I think it's kind of interesting. Like the further back, the more aggressive the culling is. I like that idea. Now we can just tune it maybe. It's a little weird how it doesn't care about what side we're on, which makes sense. Maybe we do something, have something to do with the max axis of the coordinates itself. Maybe we also take that into consideration, like the coordinates being like the cursor coordinates. Because you could imagine us being aggressively culling on this side, but not aggressively culling on this side. So like if you're over here, you can see this room, but you can't necessarily see this room. That could be, let's maybe add some directionality to it. I think that could be good. Because I like this behavior on one side of it, but how would that express itself? Because then after we figure this out, we can start thinking about how this works on multiple levels. Because we definitely need to think about that as well. I really like how this is coming together. We have a lot of tuning to do, but I really like this variation of the. We need to worry about the top level cutting. The top level cutting needs to reflect the cutting that's happening on the lower levels and just be like a little offset. So that's fine because we could just basically remove the Z difference. We can use the Z difference to tune how far forward that's happening. Okay. So again, so I see kind of what we're doing here with the diff, but how is the coords diff going to affect this? Maybe we need to do the calculation per component somehow. So how will how will the difference between the minimum and the maximum component, like the XY components, on the cursor coords affect this formula? I'm really bad at formulas, which is why I'm just trying stuff. We just have to try stuff and then see what happens, because like I cannot write these formulas in advance. I do not have a mathematics background. I'm a liberal arts guy. I can barely get this code together. And I think the only reason I can do code is because it's like mostly logic and not as much math, at least at the level of which I'm doing it. Okay. Huh. Okay. Let's try some stuff. So right now we're taking the min and the max of the key. Maybe we want to note which axis is the min and the max. So we got the length squared, the coordinates length squared. What about the coords? So maybe I should just store the coords min and max. Or should I we should store the axis. I think we're more interested in the axis than we are interested in the actual values. So we could say axis. I guess we know the min by knowing the max, huh? Coords, max, axis. Oh, we need to know whether x is greater than y, basically. I guess we can just do that check. We actually want the xy max. We're not interested in the z max axis. Integer xy diff. So it's whatever. It's easier to just store it. If we don't need it for more than if we just calculate the diff, then who cares? Xy diff is the same thing as down here. So it's coords dot xy int xy max axis. Oh, minus xy min axis. So we might actually not need the difference. Maybe we just want to know what the maximum coordinate is. And so what do we do with this information? How does this affect the thing? We basically want to apply a different curve depending on which axis is bigger than the other one. I need to look at this again. I'm not kidding when I say like I can't figure out these formulas on my own. I need to just look. I need to look at what's going on. So we'll make another room here. So right now, basically what's happening is here, there's not much to call. It's basically calling a sphere around the origin. Is basically all it's doing. Is that right? Let's fully block this and look at it. Yeah, it's basically doing like a sphere around the 0, because the 0 is the top and then the max is the bottom here. The closest to the camera is the max. And so basically we want to flip this curve. Basically want to flip this curve around. Well, let's try to flip the curve first so that we're getting a sphere around the max index. That's going to be easier for me to then understand what's going on. So right now the diff is the max. So what if we add the diff? Does that give us what we want? No, so it doesn't matter if we add or subtract it somehow. It's perplexing, but okay. Say greater than or equal to. Let's go back to saying subtract. Oh boy. Okay, so this is an inverse, but it's the same curve. That makes sense. We like multiply the diff. Although diff is already, or the diff isn't adjusted. All right. Okay, that was it. We just need to multiply the diff with itself to get the inverted curve here. So what we're basically going to say is we're going to use this curve. I actually kind of maybe just like this curve. Maybe we could just probably use this curve instead. I do, actually no, I kind of want to do the thing we talked about. Where we flip the curve depending on which side or which axis is the max axis, whether it's X or Y. So we want to use this curve for when we're talking about, so here our max axis is Y. And so for coordinates that have a greater X than us, we're using this curve. And then for coordinates with a lesser X than us, so basically for the min, so we figure out our max axis. So here our max axis is X and our max axis is Y. And then we say for every coordinate with a greater component value for our min axis, we use this curve. And then for every tile with a min axis component that is less than our min axis, we use the other curve. And then we're going to get that kind of S shape. I think that's going to be cool. Hey, Scott McDonald. How's it going? How was that stuff? You were working on? Everything is really quiet today. You're the first person to talk to me at all, and we've been live for 45 minutes, so thanks. But we're doing some fun stuff. We're messing with our visibility function. I'm pretty happy with the direction we're going here. We're working on like a funnel, like a cone of visibility around our mouse cursor as a way of cutting into this kind of 3D surface or this 3D object. So I just said everything we're going to do, and I totally didn't forget it. So we're going to figure out, we want to know what our max axis is. So we don't need to know our diff. I can get rid of this diff calculation. We don't really care about our diff. We need to know our max axis and our min axis. And then so we use, so we say diff is going to be this. So we're going to use this curve, which is diff times diff, if they have a greater, so if our min axis is y, then if the tile's y component is greater than our component, we use diff times diff. If it's less than, okay, so we want to know, so we want to store, we want to say, so we want to ask if key y min axis. Scott, you got it all sorted out. That's good to hear. You're still iterating on the sim tool, but you moved past the issue you were having. Awesome. Looks like a lot of progress since you popped off the other day. Hey, Travis, random recommended video. What's going on? Welcome in, Travis. We're working on a visibility. So I'm working on an isometric 3D version of FTL faster than light. So we're addressing some key visibility issues on it. We have kind of a tile editor that we've been working on. And we're working on a visibility cutaway system so that we can peer into the blocks. So you're going to have like layers of these ship decks. And we have an auto tiler that figures out a lot of this stuff for us. So we're working on different curves for how to carve away the walls so that you can see what you're looking at. And we're working on applying a couple different curves. So I want to mix this curve with another curve. I want to mix this curve, which is a sphere, around the maximum origin, or the maximum point, which is this. And I want to mix that with this sphere. I guess I should say circle. It's a circle. So if you use diff squared, you get one circle. And if you use just diff, we'll get a circle around the minimum coordinate for cutting away. So this is the opposite. And they each have kind of interesting characteristics, so I kind of want to use both of them. So we're going to use this as kind of an S curve, depending on where the mouse coordinate is, so that the stuff to the right of our coordinate is getting culled away like this. And the stuff to the left of our coordinate is going to get culled away the other way. So it's going to be kind of this S curve that kind of warps as you go around culling walls to solve the visibility issue. And then we're going to work on the Z layer stuff. We're going to work on Z layer visibility after that. But I appreciate you coming in and saying hi. Happy Friday. Kind of wild that we're being recommended to people, but I'm not complaining about that. All right, so what we were doing was we were saying if key XY min axis, key XY min axis is greater than coords int. You might actually only need to save the index, huh? You might not actually need the axis. I feel like casting an enum to an int is basically free, but maybe it's not. Travis, cool. You never played FTL? Isometrics a neat take. Catch a lot of related content. Hell yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, you've maybe played more Into the Breach, maybe. We're kind of mashing together the two subset games, which is FTL Faster Than Light and Into the Breach. We're doing like an isometric 3D presentation of their top-down 2D game. It's kind of the core, because I really like their games. And we're probably going to end up doing a turn-based iteration too. So it is kind of more like Into the Breach, because we'll probably have a 2D or a turn-based system. So if we could just basically say this, we could say if, is this the right one? Yeah, so if their min-axis component is greater than our min-axis component, we are going to flip, we're going to say diff times equals diff. That's maybe the only line of code. We could make this a ternary, but I think this is fine for now to express what we're trying to do. Let's see if that worked. Curious to see what that did. It's kind of doing it. It's behaving a little weirdly. Oh, because it's behaving weirdly at like the edges. Maybe that's a issue of taking the squared length. It's behaving well here when we're kind of in the middle. Like if I make this, if I put some walls here, we can kind of see more how it would work in reality here. Oh, that's behaving weirdly at the edges. Okay, we need to tune some of the behavior, but like, so here, well, here it's kind of doing the same thing. Maybe this area, maybe the space we're working in is too small to notice the difference. I don't know. I guess back here you notice it. You're like calling the wall here, but you're leaving this wall. This would be good if the playable area was much larger than this. Like we're going to need the ships to be larger than one screen to be able to notice the difference here. It's also behaving badly when we just jump. We need a different case for when it's exactly the same. When it's exactly the same, we should probably be using something else. We should probably not be using two different. I feel like this is weird how this is handling the neutral case. Zero divisible. Hey, do you maybe know of a guide to follow when setting up integration between an external editor for CS, like IntelliJ here, and Godot to make it as seamless as possible? Setting up integration for an external editor. Hey, Zero Divisible, welcome to the channel. It was pretty easy for Writer. So yeah, if you go to the Godot docs, if if you're talking about setting up something for like C++, that's a little more involved, but for just C#, it's like pretty easy. So where's the C# section of the API? So if you go to the C sharps, they have a configuring an external editor section. So I can drop this link in the chat here. And that should do fine for C#. For C++, it's a little different if you're trying to compile like GD extension stuff. But they got Visual Studio. I think they have set up, yeah, they have stuff for Studio, Visual Studio, VS Code, MonoDevelop, Visual Studio for Mac, and Writer. So if you're using another one of these, I don't know. If you're using one not like one of these, but good luck. Yeah, and then there's just a couple of project settings like Travis is saying. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate the good luck. We do this pretty much every day. Tuesday, we do this 5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturday. So yeah, I hope to see you again. I appreciate you stopping in and hanging out for a bit. I forget where they show up setting up the project. Oh, here, project support. Yeah, you just need to make sure you get the .NET version of Godot. I mean, I'm presuming you're talking about C#. But yeah, I would just follow this stuff. They go through a whole thing here. They have a prerequisites like getting the .NET build of Godot. Eventually you won't need a separate build of Godot, but currently you do, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. You started a few days ago. You're just trying to wrap your head around all that. Yeah, I kind of use both. I'm using C# for one specific side of the project, but I still also just use GDScript for other stuff, for UI, input handling, rendering stuff. Using the Godot API, like doing animations and things like that. Anything that's heavily communicating with the Godot engine and the nodes is pretty much all GDScript still, because I find that just better. It's a more tighter integration with the engine than the C# is. But we're using C# for a separate simulation layer that we kind of have going. YouTube hinted you the channel today somehow, so you'll try to drop by. I appreciate that. I know, you and I we're both equally perplexed as to why I'm being recommended to people, but... So why are we not correctly handling... I want to say greater than or equals to, I think. And then maybe we're going to switch to using length instead of length squared. Length squared is clean because it's like it's an int, but... So we're getting this cool S shape with some weird stuff happening. So we've got some weird stuff happening. We've got like a tangent that's appearing. It's weird that we should just be getting the normal sphere thing when we're right in the middle. So I don't understand why we're not getting that. It shouldn't be flipping around like this. I guess it makes sense if you're going like this. That might be a little disorienting if you're mousing around the sides. Maybe not. I need to figure out how to get the center to be exactly spherical, but... Travis, you mainly do C++, by the way. Compiled language that's recommended to learn a build system like CMake or Premake to handle compiling. Otherwise, you can just download VS 2022. Yeah. I kind of wish I did some of this stuff in C++, but I'm not familiar enough with it. So we're doing C# instead. 0 to visible, read GDScript, fair. Yeah. If you're just learning the engine, I would just learn. I mean, unless you really, really, really like C# and you really don't want to learn GDScript and you hate Python, I would just mess around with GDScript for a while. Like if I'm doing a game jam or whatever, I'm just doing GDScript. There's some costs to be paid for interfacing between C#, between .NET and the Godot engine. Because yeah, no one's managed, the other's unmanaged. So there's like marshalling costs. It's kind of weird. I'm doing my C# world is like totally separate from the engine. This is like a separate simulation layer we have set up that really doesn't talk to the Godot engine at all. It prepares a bunch of simulation data that then gets passed back, and then the Godot side handles the things like loading up the tile maps, and like eventually it's going to be the one handling things like animations, and it already handles the UI and stuff. Scott, would it make sense to have just a circle for the center and your combo mask when near the edge and then lerp between them depending on how close you are to the edge? That would probably make sense, Scott. That would probably make the most sense. I'm kind of tempted to just kind of go with the sphere, maybe the inner sphere, rather than this S-curve thing, because I kind of liked that. I think I liked this better, maybe. Like I think I like the sphere. I kind of want the sphere to be based around the cursor and not cross this dividing line as much. So I need to do something a little different. We could maybe only consider... How would I reproject the sphere just using at the edge of the cursor, and so it's like this? How would I do that? Because this is what I don't like. I don't like how it's easy to get around the side. That's why I kind of like the other one, and I kind of like the mix. But I don't like the way that it jumps. At the center, it really should just be the sphere. And for some reason, that's not what we're seeing. Travis, the info was directed at zero divisibles questions. Oh, no, for sure. Thought he was asking about that. You're all good for game dev. C++ is a whole extra thing. I know. I ended up writing an entity component system here in C#. And that I really wish I had just... If I had done that in C++, I could have probably just abandoned the entire C# side of this project. I could have probably just... If I was better at C++, I would do my simulation stuff there directly, and then I would just have the GD script call into that stuff, rather than maintaining a whole separate simulation layer for it. But this was more comfortable for me. Zero divisible. Yeah, your goal for now is to just deploy a tutorial game on both desktop and iOS. For now, it works on desktop, so you're wrapping your head around the whole Apple ecosystem, figure out how it works. Oh yeah, that's a totally different can of worms. I haven't tried to do iOS stuff since like 2010-ish, and I did not enjoy, maybe a little later than 2010, probably more like 2012 or 2013. I did not enjoy Xcode and all that stuff, and I just don't have Macs, so I just kind of abandoned it. But I think it's good. I think that's great to target both. If you have a design that you know makes sense for. So I want to understand why we're not getting the behavior in the center that I'm expecting. We're still getting a slight curve in the center specifically. I don't totally understand that. Like this S-curving thing should not be happening when we're exactly in the center. But yeah, you're right, Scott. We probably want to ease into it is probably what we want to do. Or the thing that I'm also tempted to do is to just have a sphere around the mouse cursor itself. But this is kind of good. I really want to understand why we're getting weird behavior like this. If we could address this weird behavior here, which seems to be happening at high levels. Oh, it's happening at the edge? Yeah, it's happening very weirdly along the edges. Let's do something a little different. Let's say float towards length. We might be losing some accuracy with length squared that we would otherwise be getting with length. See how that changes things for us. Travis, you like what Godot did with GDScript? You're probably not missing anything. No reason to overcomplicate. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like GDScript. Oh, this is Bizarro. If I turn this part off. That is very, very wrong. Scott says, unless you have a programming background in a different language you want to use or other specific reason, probably just should learn with GDScript. Yeah, for sure. I think we all agree. Okay, so now we're back to this. So we actually don't need diff to do this one, huh? Interesting. That's interesting. So we could say if difference is 0, we could say if coords distant, coords difference equal to 0, we could just do something specific. I'm going to add an edge case for this. I'm just going to hard code this for now. It's diff times diff. Otherwise, we're going to say if Okay, let's try this. It's a little weird, but it might work. Oh, it's behaving horribly. Why? What did I mess up this badly? We're just calling everything. Oh, coords. Oh, we need to change this. That didn't work. Okay, so we've got the normal thing here. Got this thing here. It's still doing this weird stuff here. Don't understand that exactly. Something happening as we get to the edge here. Well, we need to handle the when we're off screen a little better. We need to like we just need to ignore this. So we need to say something like we can do this a little differently later, but we need to say something. For now, we need to say something like if coords. We need to say something like if buffer maybe. Do I have access to buffer here? No, I don't. How are we going to tell if we're within the... Oh, I do have it. Block buffer. Okay. Block buffer dot encloses. Oh, block buffer dot AABB dot... What can I say? Contains boards. That's why we just don't bother with this if we're outside of the area. I mean, that doesn't do much for us other than handle the weird case of we're over here now. We're like not within the playable area. But as soon as we're in the playable area, we start doing weird shit. It's like very close to what I want. I just need to understand why we're seeing strange behavior around the edges like this. So what do we think is happening here with this kind of loop? We're just getting weird behavior when somewhere kind of around, oh, we're getting it pretty early actually. We're starting to see it once. Starting to see it once the minor axis gets like to about half, gets to about 50% of its possible length. Seeing some weird stuff. No idea. The variable values are probably not what you think they are. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe some weird mismatch of coordinate systems, global versus local. No, we're definitely in local. Well, we only have one coordinate system, but yeah. We basically have this very confined area that goes from 0, 0 at the top to the max value at the bottom, which right now is like, I think 14, 14 or something like that. And we're doing this check. We're basically flipping between models. We're flipping between two formulas based on the minor axis. So what are we actually doing? So we're saying, so we flip the model based on whether the key is the tile's position. So this is the tile position. The coords is the mouse cursor coordinates. So if the key's value for the coordinates minimum axis, or just x or y, basically x or y, depending. If that value is greater than the coordinates min axis index, I feel like it's maybe we're seeing an accuracy problem of like length squared or something, or like length squared is like distorting something, but like I don't know, that doesn't totally make sense to me. Coordinates. Oh shoot, it is. There's a distortion. We need coordinates dot xy dot length squared, and we need key dot xy dot length squared. I mean, that shouldn't matter in this case, but it will matter later. It shouldn't matter in this case because these values are the same, but that is an issue. It's not the issue we're dealing with for sure, but it's an issue. So we have this weird case where we have almost like a tangent appearing here. I'm actually not sold on this cutaway, this kind of S curve, but I kind of like it. I think it's behaving weirdly at the edges, which I don't like. If I could get this kind of a curve, but get it to be more like projected around the mouse cursor, rather than being projected around the max point here, I think that could be interesting. But again, I'm not a great formula person, so I just need to try stuff out and see and visualize what's happening. So, probably not the most interesting thing to watch. But this is important. This is important work here. Yeah, what is this? I need to be able to better visualize and highlight what tile I'm mousing over. I need to add some line tool stuff so I can see what tile is selected, because I have a suspicion that I understand some of what's happening here. Yeah, this behaves pretty well when we're in this case. Like I really like this. I really like what's going on here. Oh, is it not happening on this side? No, it is. So it's if x is like, if the minor axis is very small and the major axis is very large, we're getting very weird behavior. Scott, this is one of the types of problems where coding and graphs can be useful, where you can just play around with sliders and see the effects in real time. That's a good point. That is a good point. This is again where my lack of a math background or like graph theory understanding is like causing me some grief. So as the difference gets larger, we're getting some weird behavior as this difference gets larger. And as the difference gets larger, it's being exaggerated because we're multiplying it against itself. Scott, yeah, you mean visual node graphs, like how Unreal uses shader graph? You're definitely no graph theory expert either. Hey, Ryson. Yeah, we did. We did. We inverted the funnel, and then we started doing something more complicated. I'll kind of show you what we got. So we kind of tested out two different curves. Over on the Twitch side. Hello. So we have this curve that I think is kind of interesting. And then we also have this one, just like diff squared. This is okay too. This is kind of cool as a visibility cutaway, curve. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to mix the two together, right? So that we basically get an S. We get like an S curve. But we're getting some degenerate behavior at like the edges. So like when the difference between the major axis and the minimum axis is like low, we're getting some pretty cool like little S curve behavior here, which I kind of like. But we're seeing as soon as basically as soon as the max axis value gets like more than double the minimum axis value, we see some weird behaviors where we're getting some strange stuff here. It's also kind of not behaving well with this along the middle because I want to just use this along the middle. So I'm thinking of doing something else because I don't think the S is actually that useful. I kind of mainly just want this curve, maybe more centered around the cursor. So we're just fiddling around with curves here. This is definitely not my strong suit. I think we actually maybe don't want to do. I think we want to try a different approach. I think I want to do this one essentially. I think I essentially want to do this one, but I want to move it around more. I want to like put an offset so that it's more following the cursor around. And maybe, so how would we do that? So we could define a culling length, like a vector length at which we cull, but we need to do some kind of offset so that it moves around, with our cursor more. I think this is more stable, so it's less jarring. And the S curve, I realize, is not going to be good if we make, it's actually just not good because you really just don't want to look that far past the walls. So I kind of want to curve it out more on the opposite side of, in like the opposite grid quadrant to where we are. So when we're in this grid quadrant, I want to kind of make the slope steeper here so that it cuts out earlier. So how would I do that? We would do that by disfavoring tiles with an opposite max axis index or a max axis to us. So like if we're over here in x axis land and we have a tile over here in y axis land, we want to make it less likely for the tile to be called. And so we can do that by changing the requirement somehow. Because right now we're doing like a stupid thing and we're just taking the length here, the length squared of the tile. I don't know. What we should do also is we need to also tune the multi-level calling behavior. So kind of the main thing I'm interested in doing today. So we need to think about the whole shape in 3D as well. I probably need to just go look at some maths to solve this, but oops. So we also need, so right now the upper levels are working very straightforwardly. They're just taking an offset based on the Z level. So I did invert that funnel, but I want to curve it out more. Because right now it's, I want to make it more of a curve. Maybe we just define this point, and as we step further along, as we get to like higher and higher ones, we become just more stringent about the cutaway. I don't know, or more aggressive about the cutaway. Maybe that's how we do it. I can imagine a few different ways to formulate this. So maybe we do it less length-based and more like component-based. Because the upper levels are doing it component-based and it's a little cleaner. And we could probably still add like a curve to that. Feel like a sphere would look better. Yeah, we kind of want a sphere. We want a sphere around the cursor. And we want the cursor to be on the edge of the sphere. So that's just like, that's maybe the struggle for me, is how to do that. Because I could easily do a sphere around the cursor, but we don't want that. We want the cursor to be kind of like out one of the edges of the sphere. Travis, remove tiles a certain radius from a point. This point is interpolated between the max x and y of the map area closest to the viewer and the mouse position. Oh, it's interpolated. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it. With define a point between the two. Yeah, something like a sphere would be good. Point gets weighted towards the max xy of the map versus the mouse, the closer the mouse gets to the origin. Yeah, yeah, okay. It's a good idea. Just trying to formulate that in my head. So you're almost adding the length. We could almost add the length of the distance between the coordinates, the cursor coordinates, and the maximum value. Let's try that. Let's try something like that. So we need the maximum value of our space. Track the coordinates. This would be so as we approach, as we get closer to the maximum point, this value gets smaller. So we have this offset we're generating. Then what? We want the length squared of this, of the offset. Let's just plug that in first and see what's going on here. Very much a visual thinker. Okay, so this is doing nothing because I busted something, or I'm maybe operating in a different space now. Oh, we want to say abb.maximum.xy. We want to work in, vector 2i space for this. Well, no, we need to keep the 3i, but we need to say the offset. So the offset can be 2i. We can say xy. I want to get the z coordinate out of this thing. Probably interfering. Okay, so this is defining a point. What we want to do is we want to check the distance between the offset and the key. So we can say, what if we say key I need some value to test against. I don't know what value to test against. Let's just start picking random values. This key is greater than something. Okay, I'm misunderstanding something. So I'm trying to define a point that is between where the mouse cursor is and the maximum point of the screen. The way I did that here is probably not great, where I just say, what's the XY coordinates of the cursor, and then add the difference between, oh, that's just going to give me the max every time. It needs to be some function, some difference of this. Oh, nothing is working anymore. I went back to the previous, oh, okay, this is offset. This is still working on the difference between, yeah, I guess just a distance check around some point. So the trick is defining the point. Follows the cursor. I mean, I'm overthinking this. Let's just do a distance check from the cursor at first, and then we can tune it from there. Travis just throwing out ideas. You imagine if you can remove tiles a certain distance from a point, you can do all kinds of neat things using lerp, etc. Yeah. I was trying to do it a different way, but I think you're right. I think that's the direction we should go. Say xy minus. Oh. So this is that idea of just a, so here's the trick is I need to offset this, right? Well, also why I wanted to do it the other way was I wanted to do it as more of a projection. But maybe it's cooler if it doesn't like go all the way to the edge. Maybe if it's cooler if it's just an area that's big enough around the cursor that you can do what you want, but you aren't erasing the whole ship, so you could still see some stuff on the outside. So we need to make this area bigger, and we need to make it, we kind of need it to offset it. So we can, what we could easily do is offset the cursor based on its maximum axis. So we could say whatever your max axis is, we'll move this spherical area, this point of comparison in that direction. And we'll move it by some amount. It'll probably be a fixed amount based on your max axis. Maybe. Maybe not. I want to make it not jump too hard when We could probably just try making it further forward. That's probably the best way to start, is actually just moving it. Well, let's move it down by 3 because that's the distance of a wall. So a wall tile obscures 3 blocks, 3 floors. Scott, a good base is distance from cursor, then you can learn from origin. Yeah, we're all getting there. We're all getting there eventually. Then if you need to make that 3D, you can magnify that based on how close it is to the top. Oh yeah, we are going to basically make it 3D, huh? Yeah, cool. So we could theoretically not need a special case for when we're on the same level. Appreciate everyone's input here. There's something about streaming that makes it really hard to think of things. The streamer brain. Where like it's fine to execute on something that I'm familiar with, but anytime I try to do something fresh, I'm like, what do I do again? What? So our offset for now, let's just make the offset chords.xy plus vector 3i dot 1 times 3. Oh, vector 2i dot 1 times 3. So yeah, this is a little weird and we're going to need to like tune it a little bit, but it's kind of what I want. And we're not making a sphere so much as we're making like a cone kind of deal. Or it is like a funnel. It is kind of like a funnel. It's a little hard to see because of the way I have the outlines going, the way the outlines terminate. For now, I almost want to run this before the outline. It is running before the outliner. Oh, right. Yeah, that would be hard to do. To get clean outlines. To get it to add the outlines would be tricky, but we actually don't want it to do that. That would make it very unstable. And then for higher levels, you would just increase the offset maybe? Maybe narrow it? Narrow the circular area? I guess I just need to pick a sphere shape I like. Like I don't like this one because it has that single tile that's farther out. Let's pick a bigger size. Let's try 5. Travis, dynamically changing the size of the clipping sphere in its center with math. Task and a half, yeah. Okay, so it's still that single. I want to make it big enough so that it's not a single block there. Let's try 6. It's still a single tile. I guess this needs to be enormous to be able to get rid of that. I don't like that there's just that single tile jutting out. If I use length squared, maybe I'll get a different shape. It'd probably be weird, whatever the shape is. It's still a single tile. Yeah, I guess that's not going to be the way. Let's try a different shape. Let's try length squared. Bryson, distance check from the front corner with a minimum size for the distance. Distance check from the front corner. You mean the front corner like this, or do you mean the front corner of like the circle? Because if we do it from this, then we're back to kind of what we were doing before, which I don't love. Okay, that's length squared is a better shape. But I want to turn up the distance here. Greater than 5.5, then floor the result. Maybe. The checks are using int math, I think, so they're going to give you limited precision. Floats for the win. Yeah, maybe. That might be it. I'm okay with this shape so far. Let's keep making it bigger. I'm currently liking this shape more than the circle shape, but my opinion on that might change. Okay, now we're back. Now we're back to this problem. Yeah, there's a reason I was like trying to do the other thing, which is like where we have these curves coming away rather than just doing this kind of a shape. Oh, this is nice though. This is actually maybe a nice shape. And it's maybe the amount of space that I want. Maybe we just need to change the offset. Because, yeah, right now this is being called. Yeah, so except for that's actually kind of cool. It's actually pretty close to what I want. It's embarrassing, but I might actually want, I don't know. I guess we could try to make it a lot bigger and move it a lot further down. Because I see a problem with the shape of this. We basically need it to be like there's a problem with the top corner that's I'm having a hard time expressing. But it basically has to do with the way it's culling around the actual selection tile. Ah, this is maybe good. No, this is not what we want either. I basically need it to be a different shape in the middle. Let's find the shape that I'm looking for. Then we can figure out how to get there. Travis, if you want exactly as a cone, you could literally define a simple cone in 3D space along the view angle and calculate intersection of tiles to clip. Good luck with that though. Yeah, there's a reason I'm not doing that. And I don't want exactly a cone. I want a shape that kind of flares out. Okay, so something like this. But this is maybe too big. Or it's maybe not actually. This might actually be the kind of thing that we want. Especially if we start dealing with ships that are bigger. This is maybe close to what I want. I mean, I need to move it down. Because our problem right now is we're culling the very area that we're building. And I need that to not be the case. All right, let's think about the floating point math thing that you were talking about. Sorry, I'm just trying things out and like rejecting them out of hand here. No. I need a very particular shape in the corner, in the top corner. This should be doing float math now. Floating point math. I should have floating point precision here. Oh, although no, we're not using this. Although I guess this is a vector or an integer vector, but that's fine. This is returning also an integer vector, but that's also fine. Its length is a float. This is a float. So we should be getting that accuracy. Ryson, have the cutaway start on one layer up, so the layer you want to edit is untouched. Maybe. I don't think so. Yeah, maybe part of the problem of what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a cutaway system that works for both editing and playing. Because the way I'm thinking about this is only in terms of its impact during play. Oh, this is actually pretty good. This is actually kind of the shape that I want. I just need to make sure it's tied to, I just need to shift it down. But this is the shape that I want. So let's shift it down and see how we feel about that. I don't know how many times to shift it down. Let's try 6. Six was one too far. Let's try 5. This could be good enough for now. It doesn't need to be perfect. I think I do like a more circular, spherical. Okay, so now we're not culling the very tile we're putting down. Which is good. I think I'll probably end up having to make an exception for like if I accept block tools that are bigger than, or like if you're dragging from here up, you don't want to like hide the very thing that you're placing down. So yeah, I'll have to think about that. There are some things I don't like about this. I do like that it kind of juts out to the side, so if I get close to a wall, the wall gets called away. Like, I do like that a lot. I think maybe it's not aggressive enough. Maybe I need a totally different kind of system that's more aware of the space that we're talking about. I've previously messed with like room-based culling, where you do like where you just cull all the walls that are obscuring like a room as soon as you get close to a room or adjacent to it or whatever. I've messed around with prototypes that do that. That's maybe the direction we go in. But I kind of like this actually. Something like this. I think as an initial try, I think this is fine. I think we're okay with this. What we should do is we should try to address the 3D aspect of it as the next thing we do. Like how it affects upper levels. I think we just increase the offset as we get further down. So here we just say like I think we don't even need this exact layer thing. I think we say I think what we do with this, just saving this in case I want to look at it in a minute. I think what we do here is we say if key.z is less than chords.z continue, that's correct. We don't call the area beneath what we're interested in. And then otherwise we're just going to, well, let's just get rid of this. Move this over. We actually don't need the vast majority of this now. Yeah, I think we can be more clever about that. We could probably distort it to make it kind of flare out towards the bottom. But I'm happy not doing that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to say offset. So offset is going to be a vector 3. It's going to be coords. Plus new vector 3i 5 5 negative coords dot z. So we're going to say offset plus vector 3i dot back times e dot z minus. This is really stupid, but I'm just getting the behavior down, and then we'll figure out a more efficient way of representing it. So offset plus vector 3i dot back. Oh, we just need to redefine a new offset for each v, or for each. So we can say vector 3i offset equals coords. So it's the coordinates, but it's adding this offset So new vector 3i 5 5 0. No. Negative coords dot z. Int xy off xy offset. I don't know. Z offset. So key minus. So this is the. Well, we can put this down here. I swear what I'm doing was going to make sense eventually. Z offset key dot z. So here's the difference between the key z and the coord z. We're only going to be doing this if it's equal to or greater than. So this will always be a positive number, or it'll be 0. Get rid of whatever this horrible thing was. So offset we'll define after this. We'll say offset is 5 plus z offset 5 plus z offset. So as we go up, it's going to move it forward. We might want to move it forward by more than just 1, but we can deal with that. Instead of it being negative coords, it could just be e dot z. Or we could just make this a vector too. What am I doing? What am I even talking about? In which case, we only have to write this down once. Even just write it like that. Let's. Oh wait, what's this? Oh no, that's right. Oh, we do need. I did a goof. You just say. And we could do this check up here before we do any work. We're not deleting any floors. All right, let's try this. This might give us a 3D cutaway that's like not horrible. So here's it on one layer. Go down and make another one here. Oh, it's like impossible to tell. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just finish this. I'm just gonna restart. I'm just gonna make some rooms. So we're just gonna fill the whole space. And then I'm gonna make a room. Okay, so this is kind of horrible. So it basically can't be a sphere. It needs to be something more conic. Because it needs to... We can't have it be doing this thing on the edge where it's basically like not deleting the close walls. It's also not... It's like offset too far. I think I just need like a cutout. I think I need a different... I think I need to think about this differently when we're in the editor tool than when we're in the than when we're actually playing the game. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that it does that. That like the four walls like recede back up, but I think it's doing it maybe too much or too quickly. So I guess I could increase the amount of... I could do this. I could say key.z minus chords.z times 2. You could try that. That's better in terms of it's not being quite so aggressive with the four walls. Maybe not aggressive is the right word. It's not being quite so conservative. It's like, I don't know. Actually don't know how to refer to that. I still have this core problem of it's not clearing enough away from where my cursor is, like where the area we're most interested in it is. Like you can't really evaluate a room or anything. You could try to extend the bottom half of the circle cutaway down and to the right and left, as if you're drawing a rect from the closest corner, but the top corner is rounded. Yeah. Do something like that. I mean, I kind of like the curve. I do kind of like the squiggly line stuff that we're doing. But like, I go back to an earlier version. Oh, this needs to be and, not or not and. Is this just better though? Like, probably not. I mean, in one sense, yes, it is. Like, do I just need to project this back further and then just add exceptions for tile placement? Then how did this work for multiple levels? Like, is something like this not just better and like simpler? We can deal with the headroom issue. Travis, very much a 3D effect. If you imagine an infinite plane parallel with the screen and its Z position determined by where the mouse Z is, you can figure out if a tile is between the mouse and the viewer. Damn. Yeah, that would be pretty wild. Smooth in a second, you think it is? Quick look over reads better. Yeah. I think you're right because I had this exact same. I did this previously, and I went through all these different ways of doing like room based culling and like all these different cullings, and then I was like, what if I just with extreme prejudice eliminate every tile that's like has a greater x or y coordinate than the cursor, and it like is just clean and it's easy and like I don't know. It's a little trickier for 3D. We need to create more headroom. We do need to do that. Ryson, as for not seeing in front of the cursor enough while keeping the stuff you are editing visible, you think you'll have to cut away the upper layers more than the one you were working on? You think you do like the inverted funnel look the most so far? Other way is cooler. This is simpler. Yeah. Like if we can make a little more headroom for this, I think that's good. This is already doing the same cutaway one level up. I kind of like it because you're kind of just peeling the curtain back with your mouse cursor. Like if we add a bunch more walls. Excuse me? Oh, we're on the wrong floor. Can you have the first step just have more headroom, the step closest to the mouse? I was thinking about that. Smooth in a second. You might be right. Let's think about that. Because then you're like peeling the thing back with the cursor. And then you need to come back, grab something, and then move back. I think the back and forth is okay on mouse. I'm a little more concerned about it. Like you pull the curtain back, and then you bring it back to grab the thing you want, and then you pull it back again. Like, I think that's fine on mouse. I don't know how much I would like that on joystick. I'm not sure about that on a joystick. I'm a little more concerned about it there. What? How did I end up accidentally doing this? Yeah, like I don't hate this. The headroom thing is definitely an issue. Maybe we just, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we just push it back one tile further for the first one and then start to reseat it. Doing the sphere casting around the cursor really showed off how small the map was. Like it really exaggerated how small the map was because you were constantly like deleting the walls on the edge. Because the other thing you could do is if you want to work on a different side of the ship, just like rotate the ship. Just like spin the ship around to the other corner. Like, or move the camera around to the other corner. Because we don't need to provide visibility into the entire ship this way. We just need to make the close corner look good. Oh, wait, this isn't doing what I'm expecting it to do, is it? We want to make this slightly... Okay, I think I know what we want to do. We want to make this slightly more aggressive. Yeah, once the ship gets more populated, the simpler peel back will probably read better. I think you're right. I mean, we spent basically the whole day, or 2 hours today, trying out some different funnel shapes. I think you're right, though, and I think my original instinct of just doing it simply is also right. But it's one of those things, this is game dev. This is why I have like 130 episodes of this already out, and we're still messing around with this stuff. Because you try it, you go back, you try it at a different, you get a different context, you try it again. All right. Starting to get the hang of the editing tool, which is cool. I can quickly like make rooms and stuff. So we need to add some more walls. I am seriously considering basically removing the build size requirements, but we probably should keep them in for a little longer. Okay. Okay, so we're culling. Okay, so I'm happy with the culling level on the floor we're currently on. I'm not happy with the culling level on the above floors. You gotta get back to work? No worries. Thanks for the input. Smooth in a second. Appreciate you actively looking at this and giving some feedback. I appreciate everyone's feedback. And everyone's ideas. It's definitely not my strength to be trying to like project like 3D spaces or infinite planes or more complex solutions. Kind of the only way I've gotten this far in the game is like to like take the simplest path. So I think for now we're going to keep taking the simplest path, but I think we can peel back the next level up by 2 and then start to have it reseat again. So we can have it go out and then back in. Let's try that. That might actually be good enough for us for right now. So here's the trick here. So if we're in an upper level, we say if key.x is less than chords.x plus the difference. So here we can just add a number, right? Like 2. That might go the wrong direction, but in which case we just put -2. Okay, that was the wrong direction. So we say -2. Probably make this a switch case, huh? Travis, inverted funnel sounds cool, but yeah, as the floors goes up, make the clipping circle larger. That could also work. I need to study the math a little more. I like this shape maybe though. So here we're kind of like, we're doing more of a sphere, or we're doing a curve across z levels, but on each individual z level, we're just doing like a straight line. This could be good. Let's add some floors so that we can actually evaluate it. It's a little weird, but I think I kind of like it. I think this is enough headroom. It's actually enough headroom that you can peer over walls. Just kind of cool. Like you can delete. Let's add some more walls and see how we like this. I think I like this, at least for now. We'll probably get more sophisticated later on. Oh, I was gonna make these walls across all the floors. And go back down. Let's do this one again. A little disorienting. I might actually want to be even more aggressive about this. So what if we, Ryson, you like the headroom there? Yeah, the headroom's getting better. I think I want to crank it up a little more. So I want to add a case of where the x and the y, either x or y coordinate matches. So if either x or y coordinate matches, then I want to do a little bit of a more, I want to do something a little different. I want to say, how do I do this? I need to see which direction we're going here. Okay, almost. Okay, I see what we're doing here. So if key.x is less than coords.x and key.y is less than coords.y, we're just going to continue. So we don't care about that case. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Now we need a case for if now we want to deal with if either coordinate is the same. So we want to say if key.x, if either of these are true, or actually what we're going to do is we're going to say if both of them are true, we just continue. If either of them are true, we're doing a bit of a branch here. Trying to shape the edges around where the cursor is a little more precisely. Yeah, this might be it. This might be the shape I want. Makes it a little easier to look through a wall. So now if your cursor is up against a wall, you see through it. I like that. Like if you mouse up against a wall, you can bat that wall down. It's maybe a little weird, but I like it. It's a little more fanned out. So we can bat both of these walls down by going to the corner. Maybe that's too far. I don't know. Maybe I don't like this. Maybe I kind of like if you have to put your cursor in the way of the wall to stop it rather than this. I think I like that better. So I don't think I like this as much. How do I get back to the other behavior I had? Yeah, okay, this is the behavior I had before. So here, there's an exception made for the actual cursor. And anything less than... I like this a little better because you kind of have to move your cursor in front of a wall to basically like interrupt the flow of it. I think that's a little more intuitive than what I was just trying. Basically interrupt the stream with your cursor. Okay, now we just need to tune the upper levels to be kind of like this. Okay, so now we're back to where we were a few minutes ago. I still think I want a little more headroom. So maybe I have a double tile offset and then it starts to ramp forward. Let's try that. So what we can do here is we can say -3. You could also have it change a little. You could have it be like a multiple. Have it be more of a slope. We might still eventually move to like a room-based solution, but I think for now this is okay. I know I keep telling myself that, but it's to convince myself that like we could be working on something else. Still think it's a little claustrophobic in the back. But it looks good. It has the benefit of looking good. I think it doesn't I don't know if it reads super well, but it's definitely clean. Like it's still a little I guess it depends on how it's going to depend on how big the ships are and how big the rooms are. Like most of the rooms are going to be much smaller than this. Like if we maintain this as the max build area, there aren't going to be ships this big. This is the max build area. Like the usable part of the ship is going to be like this. And there will be just like 2 or 3 rooms maybe per floor. Some floors might only have a single room. In which case I think this system is going to be fine. I think I'm maybe not testing I'm not testing in like a realistic setting. But I think this is okay. I think we can live with this. You know, we could probably curve back more aggressively. We could probably do that. But I don't know. I kind of like this because I feel like this the way the linear curve up does a good job of communicating that like you're cutting through these whole floors and you can kind of see what's going on the floor. Like you're only going to be able to see people's feet and stuff. But I think I'm kind of okay with that. The other alternative would be to cut back more aggressively. which I'm also tempted to try. Let's try it. Let's try that at least. What do we got to lose? This is probably the one thing we're going to do this stream, is just get our visibility system into somewhere that we're happy with. Appreciate everyone hanging out and hanging in here. Happy Friday again. Ready for the weekend. Ready to stream again tomorrow and do something else. I wonder what we're going to do tomorrow. Probably the flood fail algorithm. We'll re-implement that so we can start to get compartmentalization stuff, because that's important for the auto tiler. We can get rid of one of these checks. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, I was going to try. So right now we're saying key minus coords.z minus 3. And we're subtracting this number from coords. Dot x. So would it be easier for me if I flip the signs? No. So if the key.x is less than this number we're determining, and right now it's the x coordinate plus the difference between our z coordinate and the cursor z coordinate minus 3. We're going to need to flip the z coordinate axis, the z axis. I've decided that's what we're going to do, and we need to do that relatively soon because we have a lot of systems that depend on the direction of the z axis. We talked about it before, why we're doing it, but I've decided. We'll just need to invert the z indexing based on the z coordinate. That's the only thing that's going to need to be inversed. Everything, or inverted. Everything else will just work. So right now it's just coords.z minus 3. So if I want it to be more aggressive, could we just say coords.z times 2? I mean, we're still going to need that offset. Although no, this is gonna have it go in the opposite direction. Hold on. I need to get my C legs. I need to like visualize how this works, or I don't understand it. Very much a visual learner. Okay, that had no meaningful impact. It's interesting. Why hasn't that affected the slope at all? Oh, I see. I modified the wrong thing. Kind of funny. It's the Z key that needs to be multiplied by 2, not the coords key. We're going to go up to 4 on the offset. We're going to try that. I saw it just then and it looked good. Or wait, is it the difference that I need to multiply, not the individual component? I guess we'll find out. No, this was right. Well, sort of. No, okay, yeah, this is behaving incorrectly. Yeah, it's the difference that needs to be multiplied. This is kind of wild, but this might actually be kind of dope. It's probably too much. But we can tune that by just reducing the offset here. I think the multiplying by 2 was correct. Like this way you can still see that the layers are being cut away, but you can't see anything else about it. Like you don't get any meaningful information about the upper floors, which is correct because I don't think there's a way to do this where you get meaningful information about the upper floors. It's not a way of being able to see into multiple layers. Like you still just want to go up and down to different layers. Let's just change this offset. Let's go back to -2. This is maybe it here. Maybe what we want. Maybe we want -3, actually. I like -3. Bryson, see how it looks when you add internal walls? You do think you like this version, latest version the most? Yeah. I think we're getting there. I think it's a small enough space where having it be linear is like totally fine. Like having it just be a straight line. Like I think if we undid the build limit, yeah, let's put some walls in. That's a good idea. Put some interior walls in here. I think this is it. I think you're getting the look of like the bulkheads and stuff on the upper floors. Like you can see that it's enough that you can see the bulkheads, like you can see the alternation between the wall and the floor. But you can't get any meaningful data out of it. And you can kind of peek into the next room. And if you really want to see the wall, you can tear the wall down by interrupting it with a cursor. So I think we're minimizing the amount of information we're destroying, which it's like not usable information anyway. I think it's a little awkward when we get to the edge here and like this happens. I think we need some kind of like don't destroy the outer wall. I think I need a check that prevents the outermost wall from being destroyed. But yeah, otherwise I think I'm pretty happy with this. Bryson, for editing at least, you have no real concept of gameplay yet. You're not the only one. Yeah, let's add that continue case. So we're gonna say if key dot x is 0 or key dot y is 0. Continue. You can actually put that check anywhere. Put that check here if we wanted. Or up here even. That's actually not going to be the best, but it's okay for now. It actually doesn't address the core problem. Yeah, I basically don't want to erase the back walls from a culling standpoint. There's no reason to do it. Scott, you feel like it's looking a lot better now too and more practical? Great. Consensus. Okay, yeah, now we're not getting rid of the upper walls anymore, which I think is good. I think it's a little wild. I think it looks a little weird, but I think it's fine. I'll have to decide what I like better. Or how I like dealing with the edges. It's going to be a little weird if we have rooms that consist of more than one Z level. So maybe eventually we do have a more room-based solution where it's like if your mouse cursor's in this room, call to this room. If your mouse cursor goes into this room, call to this room and the room ahead of it. I don't know. Well, I did something like that in an old prototype, and we can go back and try it. I didn't love it, but it was also kind of hard to determine some of the stuff. I mean, we have data about what rooms there are, and we can easily get data about what rooms are connected to what rooms, just how I did it last time. Just using the compartment list and like where the doors are. But there's weird edge cases about like with it, like hallways. Hallways make it really kind of weird how you would determine that stuff. But yeah, I think for now this is okay. I think this is usable. Scott, only other thing you could think that might improve the feel if it fits the vibe you're going for and isn't too hard to add would be to make the upper layers slightly translucent. By upper layer, you mean any layer above your current one. Yeah, we could maybe do that. If we do that, I would be a lot less aggressive about or I'd probably get even more aggressive about the cutaway system. So we can test that out real quick because we have a little bit of time. I want to wrap up in the next like 10 to 15 minutes. But we actually already know how to do that, so we can just do it. And we can do it per node. So we just go into here. So instead of modulate area line layers, what we're going to do is we're going to say so how did I do this? So let's look at the door. 0.5 if cutaway tiles is. So there's 5 layers that are usable. So we could say like minus 0.2 opacity every Z layer difference. We could say something like that. We could say block areas index.modulate.a. So instead of this, excuse me, does the block area know what its Z level is? It should. Oh, it currently does not, because it currently does not have a script attached to it. How are we going to do that? Block areas. So for child, blah, 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 blah. We have fur index and range area count. Block areas index. Okay, so we can use the index. So we could say block areas index.modulate.a equals. Right now, we start by counting the bottom. So we would say modulate. So we're trying to make transparent the layers, the upper layers, and we kind of increase that transparency as we go up. So our baseline is whatever our current layer is. So our current layer is horribly titled highest visible area number. So we could say if index is greater than highest visible area number, we'd say block areas index.modulate a equals index minus highest visible area number times 0.2, something like that. Else block areas index modulate.a equals 1. I'm adding semicolons to things. What am I doing? This is madness. So when do I trigger this? We say we trigger it then, and we trigger it at the beginning. Okay? Let's try this. This is going to be weird. If it's great, it was my idea. If it's terrible, it was Scott's idea. Okay, it's not doing anything. So that is interesting. Index minus highest visible. So this is if the index is greater than the highest visible area number. Highest visible area number starts at 5. It goes down less. dot 0 minus this. Now I could just reverse the order of this, but I'm not going to do it. Oh, that's horrible. Do you see what you've done, Scott? It's because of the way the system works to handle the visibility cutaway. Because it renders every single tile, including the obscured tiles, and that's the only way that the visibility system works. This is truly horrifying. And it's kind of cool that you can see the whole grid, but like, truly appalling. Fun idea though. We could change things around and do a bunch of different stuff to make that work, but like, is it worth it? Probably not. What we really need to do is we need to start like we need to get to the point where we're making like actual ships, and then we're gonna have a whole bunch more data to make decisions based on. Because right now we're like presuming we know how big these ships are and like what they're made, like what they look like, and like how we're gonna do this stuff. We're presuming a lot. Yeah, like I actually don't want it to like work like this. I want it to stop. I actually want it to be maxed out. So like I want you to get to like here, maybe. And then I want the cutaway to stop. So if you go any further this way, it doesn't matter. So I need to clamp the cursor. Let's do that. You think it would have to be the opacity of the entire layer, the individual cells, not so much? It is the opacity of the entire layer. It's actually the opacity of all the layers that we're changing. Because we were just changing the opacity of the node object that holds all of the layers for that specific level of the ship. But because they're semi-transparent, they're doing like the alpha is being added together or whatever. They're like it's becoming more opaque the more materials you put. You would need to like uh you need to change the way the alpha is calculated. It would need to be like flat. It would need to like not add together. It would need to just take whatever like the highest one is. I don't know how to do that kind of stuff, but we could probably figure out a way to do that. That'd be like a material. We'd need like a custom material or something like that probably. That like clamps the alpha to like some low number. So it affects like all of the tiles in all those layers the same way. We might do something like that eventually. For now, let's just set a clamp here for the coords. So here, so once we do the check, we can say coords.clamp. We're going to clamp it between block buffer dot AABB dot minimum. I mean, we could actually just say vector 3i dot 1 times 3, something like that. Oh, well, we actually want to clamp the XY. We could say something like coords equals coords with X equals coords dot X dot clamp. Oh, we would just say int dot clamp coords dot X 3, I don't know, block buffer dot AABB dot maximum dot X. Oh, actually, I guess we don't need to clamp. We can just take max or min. We'd take min. No, we'd take the max. Y equals int dot max coords dot Y 3. I don't know. Something like this might work. Almost. We're like not quite, we don't quite have the right value, but that's like, this is like almost what we want. Dial it in. And then I think that'll be it for today. I'm actually pretty happy with our progress today. We've settled on like a visibility scheme for at least an initial one we can be reasonably happy with. Okay, so now it's clamped to, yeah, maybe one more. Maybe one or two more. Because if we do that, I can actually get rid of the case here. Get rid of that continue. Because we're going to clamp it above 0. We should probably clamp it to block buffer minimum +5, just so we can handle like, although no, I guess in relative coordinates, the minimum will always be 0. I don't know about that, Ryson. I appreciate the sentiment saying that I killed it, but I think I tried to do something complicated, got way out of my element, and then realized the simpler one, version was what I wanted anyway. Not least because I didn't know how to do the more complicated one. I think the more complicated one could have been cool. Is this it? Is this what I want? Yeah, we just knock it so that we hit the wall there. Yeah, this is what we want. We want to clamp it like this. Perfect. Now we don't have to worry about like cutting through the ship. And what we could do is we could use like a used rect to set the clamp once the ship is not just like maxed out like this. I think this is reasonable. I think we're pretty happy with this. I think there's still not quite enough headroom now because of this, but maybe Oh no, there's plenty of headroom because we can see all the way up into the next floor. Never mind, I'm an idiot. Yeah, this is perfect. It stops exactly before the last wall. This is actually maybe a bit of an issue. So maybe a rock clamp is actually not what we want. Let's put the walls in and see. Let's put a couple walls in and see what this looks like. We can get a little more sophisticated with this later. Yeah, because I can't actually, like, if the wall was here, I wouldn't be able to get through it. We need something a little more complicated, but a little more sophisticated, but that's fine. We probably will go to a room-based solution and just use this as our curve. Maybe we use the combination so that the whole walls of the rooms go down, depending on where your cursor is. But we can have that logic work on just the layer, the active layer. We can have the active layer be different than the other layers. We could actually, yeah, well, we could do that right now. We could have the active layer work differently than the upper layers. Yeah, easy. We don't even need a complicated solution for that. Good stuff. Thanks, Travis. Scott, you think it looks great for where you're at? Sort of thing you can nitpick endlessly? Yeah, I am. I feel like I am nitpicking it endlessly. Could always refine it more once you know what your ship designs are going to be. Yeah, that's the real question. Honestly, there's two main paths we can go. One is that we stick with this like into the breach style presentation where like there's just this cube that's like the usable area and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all we got. The whole game takes place, or, you know, your own ship is just this area, which limits our ship designs, but it's nice and tight. If this was a real-time game, I definitely would want to limit the ship designs to this size, but I feel like if we go in the direction of making it turn-based, this is not a real restriction. And we could actually make the ship like as big as we want. Like we could make fairly large ships that you need to like pan the camera around to see. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna keep with this for now, just because it's a nice simple way to test things. But like, we might unlock the ship limit to a much larger degree. I don't know. We're gonna have to think about that. We could also make the ship build limit not just a cube. Like we could have it tapered at the top and the bottom. That would maybe do some things for our like data format, storage format, but I don't know. If this game is turn-based, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not worried about in terms of performance because we can just take multiple frames to like do anything. Like the latency is less of an issue in a lot of times if it's turn-based because we're not just churning out every single thing, every single frame. Like we don't have to be ready for everything if it's turn-based in the same way that you need to when it's real-time. Scott, very intrigued to see where you end up with all this. Enjoyable listening to my music in the background. I appreciate that because I feel like it's not. But people are hanging out, so it's good. It's at least it's tolerable, and I appreciate that. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have different logic here. So we're gonna basically recalculate this. So we're gonna say, so we're gonna recalculate the coords. Does this change at all, or is this like, we'll call this offset. And we're going to use offset in the case, in this case. So if key.z is greater than, we're going to say just offset, 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 offset. This should get us what we want. So we have unlimited culling on the layer, on the active layer, and then the inactive layers are clamped. Should be exactly what we want. Yep. Oh, it's a little too unlimited. We need to add back in the check here of if key.x is 0 or key.y is 0. Continue. Pretty much there. Okay, there we go. Nice. It's a little sensitive when you go back here. So maybe we want to deal with something. Maybe we want to make it less twitchy like that. Right now we're just like we can tell if you're not in the playable area, and we're just not doing it. But probably do it a little differently. Travis subscribed. Curious where it goes. See you around. Thank you, Travis. Really appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out today. Yeah, we'll see. It's looking different every day. Ryson, it might have been a bit rough before you got here, but you were cooking near the end of the day. Well, I pretty much abandoned all the complicated stuff. We had a bunch of good ideas about some crazy projections we could have used. I'm glad we didn't. It would have been cool, but we're really just cavemanning this out. Like, we're just trying to do the simplest thing in every case. And if the simplest case is like good enough for now, we're just going to stick with it. And in this case, the simplest case is very much good enough. This seems fine. Let's add some walls just to see. Just kind of bask in what we've done a little bit before we wrap it up here. Because yeah, I don't love how like I'm really only gonna be able to have a couple of rooms per floor. I mean, combinatorically, this is a lot. This is a lot of space. This amount of 3D space is a lot to work with. But once you get hallways in here and turbo lifts or like stairs, not stairs, like ladders. Once you start adding in like the in-between stuff, there's gonna be only room for like 1 or 2 rooms per deck. And like, yeah, maybe that's good, but like I kind of want this to be bigger. So maybe we're gonna like unlock the shipbuilding limit. I don't know. I'm gonna keep thinking about it. But yeah, I'm very happy with what we've done today with the visibility cutaway thing. I feel like if I want to look at an area of the ship, I can just do it now. It's not awkward. If I want to look at a specific area, it's just you can just do it. I want to start testing a joystick-based mouse cursor or keyboard-based. To see how it feels, because the mouse is very responsive and it kind of lets you get away with things that I don't think we'll be able to get away with on the joystick. So I want to definitely start testing that stuff. But yeah, this is great for right now. And it's just so fluid. So yeah, we just ended up with like this handful of if-else statements, which it's like kind of gross. I definitely have an aesthetic distaste of this, but it's like the easiest thing to do. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what I mean by caveman. Like, we're just trying to find the simplest things. Like, we have like one like mathematical, like we're doing very little mathematical stuff here. We're maxing some chords some of the time. Rest of the time we're just checking very simple comparisons. Like, we're applying like an offset here in here, and that's like it. It's good. It's good stuff. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. I appreciate everyone hanging out. We are streaming tomorrow. We stream on Saturdays. We go Tuesday through Saturday. Pretty much the same time, same place. Sometimes I end up streaming a little later on Saturdays. It kind of depends on how early I wake up. But we'll see. But it's been awesome. This has been an awesome day with awesome people. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday. Yeah. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, and if you're a game dev, join the Discord. No, we don't comment our code, Rice, and get out of here. Maximum warp. Thanks, Smooth, in a second.